The evening settles in layers. First, the dimming of daylight through the windows, then the closing of curtains, then your mother's hand reaching for the lamp on the side table, turning the small brass key until soft yellow light pools around the living room. Not bright light, not the harsh overhead fixture, just this one lamp, casting its warm glow in a circle that doesn't quite reach the corners of the room, leaving the edges soft and shadowed and safe. Your father is already at the radio. He's turning the dial slowly, carefully, the way you'd turn a doorknob in a sleeping house, listening for something through the static. The radio sits on its own table against the wall, a substantial piece of furniture in its own right, wooden cabinet polished to a shine, fabric speaker grill, and that glowing dial with station call letters printed in an arc, WGN, WLS, KDKA. The tuning indicator moves like a tiny sunset behind the glass, warm orange light shifting as your father searches for the station. Then he finds it. A voice emerges from the static, clear, projected, professional. It might be the news, it might be a drama, it might be a comedy show or a mystery, or one of those serials that keeps you waiting all week to find out what happens next. But whatever it is, once your father finds it and settles back in his chair, the evening has officially begun. This is what you're doing tonight. You're listening. You're sitting on the floor near the lamp, close enough to see what you're doing, but not so close that your mother will tell you you're ruining your eyes. You have a coloring book open, or a model airplane you're assembling, or a deck of cards you're building into a precarious tower. Your hands are busy, but your ears are on the radio. Your sister is on the couch with her embroidery hoop, needle flashing in the lamplight. Your mother is in her chair with knitting needles clicking softly, rhythmically, creating something that will eventually be a sweater or a scarf. Your brother sprawls on the carpet on his stomach, chin propped in his hands, staring at nothing, just listening. This is the texture of a radio evening, quiet activity underscored by voices. Not silence, but something close to it. The kind of quiet where you can hear the house settling, where you can hear someone turn a page or shift in their chair. The radio voices are distinct in a way that television voices never will be. You can't see their faces, so you build them in your imagination. The hero is tall and broad-shouldered because that's what heroes look like, even though the actor might be short and round. The villain is sinister and sharp-featured, built entirely from the sneer in his voice. With radio, you have to build everything yourself. It's work, but it's the good kind of work, the kind that exercises something in your brain that doesn't get used as much once pictures do all the heavy lifting. The lamp becomes a character in these evenings. Its light is warm and particular, creating a boundary between the lit world and the dark world. Inside the lamp's circle, you're safe, occupied, together. Outside it, in the shadows beyond, the rest of the house exists in a different state, cool, dark, waiting. You don't go into those dark rooms unless you have to. You stay where the light is, where the radio voice reaches, where the family gathers. When there's music, it comes through the speaker with a warmth that digital reproduction will never quite capture, a slight fuzziness around the edges, a sense that the sound is traveling from somewhere distant and arriving in your living room as a gift. Big band music, crooners, early rock and roll. Your mother hums along sometimes, not loud enough to disturb anyone. Your father taps his foot. Then the news ends and the drama begins. Now the radio is telling a story, a mystery perhaps, where every sound effect matters. Footsteps on a wooden floor, a door creaking open, rain against a window, a gunshot, a scream. These sounds are vivid in a way that makes you look up from what you're doing, makes you focus entirely on the speaker. Your sister gasps at the right moment. Your brother asks, "What happened?" even though he was listening too. Your father shushes everyone because he wants to hear what comes next. There's a particular feeling that comes with serial radio programs, shows that air the same time every week. You wait for them. You arrange your week around them. If it's Thursday night at 8, you're home, sitting in the lamplight, ready when the familiar theme music starts. You know the characters like you know your neighbors. And because everyone else is listening too, your classmates, the families down the street, you have a shared experience to talk about the next day. Did you hear what happened on, I know, I couldn't believe it when, what do you think will happen next week? This is the social fabric that radio weaves, a common narrative that connects strangers, that creates a kind of cultural simultaneity. But radio nights aren't always about stories. Sometimes it's just music, hours of music. Your parents might dance in the small space between the furniture, your father's hand on your mother's waist, her head on his shoulder, moving slowly in the lamplight while a ballad plays through the speaker. You watch from the floor, not quite understanding what you're seeing, but sensing that it's important, that it's a window into who your parents are when they're not just parents, but people who remember being young. The radio itself has a smell, a warm electrical scent that comes from the tubes inside heating up. If you press your face close to the back grill, you can feel warmth radiating out, can smell that distinct odor of heated metal and dust. Sometimes a tube burns out and your father has to replace it, pulling the chassis out carefully, identifying the dead tube because it's not glowing like the others. This is part of radio ownership, part of the maintenance required to keep the voices coming. There are nights when the reception isn't good, when static crackles through the speaker no matter how carefully your father adjusts the dial. On those nights, you might give up on the radio entirely and turn to other things. Someone might read aloud from a book. Someone might suggest a game. Or you might just sit in the lamplight and talk, which is what people did before radio and what people still do when radio fails. The evening unwinds slowly. Programs end, new programs begin. Your mother announces that it's time for bed, but nobody moves right away. You're all reluctant to leave the lamplight, the warmth, the voices. Then, one by one, you stand, stretch, say goodnight. Your mother turns off the radio, and the sudden silence is startling. Your father turns off the lamp, and the room disappears into darkness. Radio nights taught you something that's hard to learn in the age of screens. They taught you how to listen, not just to hear, but to truly listen, to follow a narrative through sound alone, to build worlds in your imagination. They taught you that entertainment doesn't have to be visual, that sometimes a voice is enough. They taught you how to occupy yourself quietly, how to be in a room with other people without needing to interact constantly, without needing to fill every silence with chatter. Today, you can stream any program ever made. You're never without entertainment, never forced to just listen, never required to imagine because the images are always provided. But something was lost in all that gaining. The radio nights of your childhood were defined by limitation, and within those limitations, you found richness. You found the pleasure of imagination, the discipline of listening, the intimacy of gathering in lamplight while voices told you stories. The lamp has long been turned off. The radio has long been silenced, but the memory remains, warm as lamplight, clear as those radio voices that traveled through static and distance to reach your home. You remember being bored and being entertained and being somewhere in between, but always being there, in that room, listening together. Radio nights taught you how to be human in a particular way, and most of all, they taught you that the best evenings aren't always the most exciting ones, but the ones where you're together, where a voice is speaking and everyone is listening, where a single lamp burns in the darkness, and that's enough light for everything you need to see.